What's going on? Another episode of the Huddle. I'm Brad Noll, and this is Student of the Game. And we're talking about our conversation recently with Brian Lessinger. Brian's my buddy. He's a realtor in Reno, Nevada, and he's got a YouTube channel called The Complete Money Playbook. You should check that out. Subscribe to it. Let your kids subscribe to it. What a great way to help other people learn through an introduction. We don't always. I kind of fell into this conversation and mindset early on. I don't have to be the one always to educate my kids. I don't have to be the one always to educate my team. I don't have to be the one always um, to have all the information. Sometimes my friends have the information, and I want to share that with my team, with my kids, with clients of mine, with you, the listener. So, hope you enjoyed that episode. I'm gonna unpack that conversation I had with Brian a little bit here today about money. This is a student of the game. This is all about, what lessons can you learn from other people? The game we're all playing is life. In the game of life, we believe relationships win. Isn't having some money with your relationships a little more fun? Don't you feel like you're winning a little more when there's some money involved? So my first thought for you, the listener, you ever heard this statement? Act your wage, not your age. Act your wage. You ever heard that? I thought that was really good. That kind of set me up early on. In small business, this is what happens. I think most small businesses get confused with the term income and revenue. Let that sink in. Income and revenue, right? I mean, I think it's kind of like the goal. You get off and you're like, I want to make $100,000. I want six figures. Everybody talks about six figures. When you're making six figures in business, that's revenue. What's left over is income. So I want to talk to you today about how to profit first, how to create enough income that you're profitable. Um, there's a really funny skit. Don't listen to this with kids around. There's a really funny skit on YouTube. Kevin Hart uh, has if you just go to YouTube and look up Kevin Hart money skit, pretty funny. Um, it- we want to talk about transferring money, right? If you're a business owner, small business owner, you got a checking and savings account. There's definitely times you've been transferring some money from the savings to the checking to make payroll, to pay for an advertising campaign, to throw a client event. The transfer is not welcomed in my business. I want you to have a healthy business, and a lot of that comes from having healthy finances. But Kevin Hart goes on this skit, he goes on this rant, and he talks about the way my bank account is set up. And he says being famous is tough, and I'll just say being a small business owner is tough. Being a small business owner is tough because what happens is you end up serving a lot of people. You serve people that, are in need. You serve people that are extremely successful. Well, how do you go and build a bigger business? You go hang out with the people that you're working for, right? You build relationships. Well, what happens when you build a relationship with somebody who's just in a little different income bracket than you? So he talks about, and Lindsay and I kind of shared this. We've been on vacation before with doctors, and we've been out to dinner with people, that are in the world's views successful. And it's not about keeping up with them, and we know that, but at the same time, it's hard. So Kevin talks about, being famous actually has backfired, because now everybody knows who he is and he's hanging out with athletes. So his story is, I went to Vegas and I was hanging out with an athlete and he did something. So I did something. He did something else. So I did it too. And what ended up happening was the athlete said, let's do this again tomorrow. And he couldn't afford it. And he's like, I can't keep up with these athletes. Well, if you ever think about that, you ever think about the clients that you're working with and you start to be friends with them and you start to wanting to hang out with them and build relationships, and you got to be careful. You may not be able to do, as you're growing your business, you may not be able to hang out with the people all the time. Um, so I want to unpack that a little bit. When you transfer money to keep up with someone else, you're not winning. When you have to make transfers to keep up with someone else, you're not winning, either in your personal life or in your business life. Here's what we know about entrepreneurs. There's the E Myth, which is a great book. It's the entrepreneurial myth, and it really talks about the difference between a technician and a business owner. And the reason most small businesses fail, and if you're a small business owner, you may be thinking this is it. It's because the technician, right? The somebody who, I'll give you the example. In the book, it says, there's a baker, and this lady works at a bakery. She bakes pies. Everybody loves her pies. So what does she say? Well, instead of getting $10 an hour, I'm just going to go out and start my own business so I can keep all the money. Well, what does she not have? I'll tell you what she does have first. She has an amazing skill at baking pies. What does she not have? She may not have the skill of advertising, finances, time management, HR, hiring people, leading people. You have to do that in a small business. So how does that affect you? Well, when running a business, it's hard because the technician becomes a business owner. And the reason most small businesses fail is because the technician started the business. They weren't trained on running a business. You think about this. You talk to a lot of doctors now who are running their own practice. It's like, well, I didn't go to school for business. I went to school for medicine. And that's true. And a huge part of running business is managing the finances. You ask yourself, do you struggle with this? I know I did for a long time. I struggled with money for a long time. And it wasn't that I just, didn't understand. Maybe it's because I didn't understand it, but I struggled with it because I kind of didn't know who to talk to. Okay, there's financial advisors, that's great, but can you talk to them before you even make any money? I know a lot of my buddies that are financial advisors. Of course, they'll sit down with you, but they can't really do anything and help you until you start making some money. So money's a game. We're gonna play this game of money, and I would say about 7 years ago, I met this guy named Mike. He's an author, Mike Michalowicz. He wrote a book called Profit First, and to this day, I believe my success in building our business is because I don't believe that all I earn is mine to keep. I want to put good in the world right now when it comes to money because most people don't talk about it. But from a very early age in my business, I always understood the difference between revenue and income. Revenue is all the money you're bringing in as a business. Income is what you decide to keep. And I think right now, if you're struggling with money, it's because as a small business owner, you're looking at the revenue and you think it's income, right? You're looking at revenue and you think it's income. Well, have you ever got to April 15th, which in real estate we call that National Tax Extension Day? You ever get to April 15th and not have enough money to pay your taxes? Where'd all the money go? I made $100,000. Where did it all go? Right? So living off of less than what we earn, it's just simple as that. There's Mike Michalowicz wrote a book for small business owners called Profit First. Um, there's so many other examples of this. I know David Bach has written a book called Pay Yourself First. I want to talk about the 5 money tips from Brian Lessinger, and hopefully you'll be challenged a little bit. Money's a game. Brian said money is, once you understand it, it's the easiest thing to understand because money has no emotion to it. We are the ones that bring the emotion to it. So once you can get past that, you're going to be good. So let's talk about the 5 tips from Brian and money, and I'll give you some of my thoughts. So his 5 tips, number 1 was master the 4 financial pillars. Number 2 was financial accountability and awareness. 3, separate business and personal finances. We kind of just talked about that. Number 4, start conversations about money. And then number 5, especially for you younger people, if there's some high schoolers listening to this, some student athletes, you're young in your career, play the long game. Number 5 is play the long game. So he talked about number 1, mastering the 4 financial pillars. I asked my kids last night before I recorded this today, I said, what questions do you have about money? And the very first one, how do you make more of it? How do you make more of it? That's definitely one of them. So you got to master the 4 financial pillars. So the 4 financial pillars, or in this case, what we would call the fundamentals, are earning, spending, saving, and investing. I mean, what else can you do with money? You earn it, you spend it, you can save it, or you can invest it. And many business owners are good at earning and maybe even spending, but also sometimes struggle with saving or investing. From a business, tracking income and expenses is essential for both personal and business finances. And you got to make sure you're managing effectively. I think of money, earning. Again, this is not a sports podcast, but when I tell you I got a master's degree from the locker room, I played basketball in college at a high level. It was fun, learned a lot. I got into business. My story was, and I didn't feel like I knew anything about business. Matter of fact, I was kind of upset at, my family, my friends, like nobody's talked to me about business. I'm gonna start a business. And then I just realized, as a student of the game, there are lessons from the locker room. There are lessons from playing basketball that I can take with me. I encourage my kids, go do something so that it gives you a framework for how to live the rest of your life. That's all a student of the game is. It's what lessons can you pick up? What clues can you pick up? How do you stay curious? And so I look at money like offense and defense. Defense is, we're going to save, right? We're going to save. Offense, we're going to make some, right? You got to have both. You can't have a game that's 0-0. No one wins. Um, and I've thought about this. And one of my mentors, I asked him one time, very successful guy, and I said, what's more important, earning or saving? And he just looked at me and he says, earning. And the reason why is because you can continue to earn. but you can't continue to save. You can't, you can't continue to cut back your expenses, right? Think about that. You have to live somewhere. You have to pay to live somewhere. So whether you rent or whether you buy a home, this is not a real estate podcast, even though we talk a lot about it. You should be buying a home. A lot of wealth is created through home ownership. But what he was saying is at some point, you just can't cut all of your expenses. You have to eat. You have to live somewhere. But earning, go focus on earning 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x your income over time. So think about your money, offense and defense. Are you a better defensive player when it comes to money? Are you the saver? Do you pinch pennies? Good job. Your family needs you, but the family also needs some offense. You got to outscore the other team sometimes. And so, what are you doing right now to create more income for you and your family? I think savings helps you sleep at night. I call my savings account the peace of mind department. Um, and it takes a while to build that up. Business owners need to save more than people with a job at some point, because the cyclical effects of business goes up and down greater than what people on a W-2 job that has steady income does. Now, losing your job, that's a big deal, right? I mean, you got to have that savings, you got to have that emergency fund. But when it comes to business owners, your business is going to grow, so you're going to have payroll, you're going to have rent. If you've got a building. But I think saving helps you sleep at night. Um, Investing helps your business grow. This is something that is kind of near and dear to me with Profit First. Mike Michalowicz talks about you do not reinvest your profits. You take your profits. You reinvest your earnings. What's in your operating expense account. Reinvest that. But I think if you're a business owner and you have bought into the mindset of I'm going to keep reinvesting my profits to grow, and you never take a profit, I think that's where you're going to get burnout. The first place you invest is yourself. It usually pays the greatest return. Hire a coach, invest in yourself. What skills do you need? Do you struggle financially? There's personal finance and business finance. You know, um, when you hire someone, when you hire someone, they better not be just like you. My buddy says if I hire somebody and we're both the same, one of us is irrelevant. So you hire somebody who actually can dovetail your gifts and abilities with theirs. A lot of successful people have financial coaches. I don't think you'll be able to grow and scale if you don't hire a coach, if you don't hire somebody to come in. And the last thing that I think about when it comes to the 4 financial pillars is I look at money in terms of time. You ever had this thought? I look at money in terms of time. How much money you have is irrelevant. If let's just use a round number, for example. If I have $10,000 and you have $10,000, who has more money? The obvious statement is, well, you have the same. No, you don't. What if I spend $10,000 a month and you spend $1,000 a month? If we both have 10,000, I have 1 month of money and you have 10 months of money. And so I look at money in terms of time, like how much time am I buying myself with the amount of savings that I have? Or when I invest, I'm investing to buy my time back. That's really what money's all about. Warren Buffett has a great quote. I mean, you can't have a money podcast without a quote from Warren Buffett. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. I mean, that's really the pay yourself mentality. That's the profit first mentality. We're starting with Warren because he's the GOAT when it comes to money. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. How do you do that as a business? Number 2 point that Brian talked about, financial accountability and awareness. I think it's start with a clear evaluation of where you're at today, your current financial state. Write down every source of income and expense and identify where can you cut costs, where can you improve, where can you grow. This is a simple practice, but it builds financial awareness and accountability. Profit first. So the whole concept of profit first is prioritizing profit by taking it out of your revenue before you cover expenses. Think about that. There's a shift in the traditional accounting formula. So traditional accounting says sales minus expenses equals profit. I believe that sales minus profit equals expenses. I'm going to spend in my business what's left over after I take my fair share of profit from the business. I think this will ensure sustainability as well. In real estate, in terms of income and revenue, we have buyers, sellers, investors, building or new construction, referral fees. These are all areas we can grow our income. Think about yourself. If you have a W-2, do you have skills where you can go and potentially do some work on the side? Have a little side hustle. With the skills that you have, can you do a side hustle? If you're a small business owner, are there services that your business can add or offer to grow? These are things when you're looking at expenses. I'm going to keep cutting. I'm going to keep looking at where I'm spending, and it's not getting me a return. But when it comes to income, how many things could I do to earn an income? I think the most important part in this, as far as the accountability and awareness, is understanding where you're starting. Right? Understand where you're at. Don't compare yourself to somebody else, and that's the worst thing you can do. Um, Compare yourself to maybe somebody who's in your similar shoes, or who has had a similar path. If you're just starting off in real estate, don't compare yourself to me. I have 21 years of experience. Our team helps about 200 to 225 families a year. Don't compare yourself to me. Compare yourself to what I was doing when I started, when I was in your same shoes. That's a great comparison. I believe comparison robs you of your joy if you're comparing the wrong thing. We've talked about this on another episode, but comparison is great. Comparing yourself to other people that are in similar spots, apples to apples. Let's figure out where you're at. I love this analogy. When you're trying to figure out where you're at, I ask my kids a lot of times, how long is it going to take to drive to Florida? How long does it take to drive to Florida? And they give me about the same answer. Oh, 18 hours, 19 hours, 20 hours, whatever. The same answer. And I said, well, you're looking at it the wrong way. You never asked, where am I starting from? What if I'm starting from Fort Wayne, Indiana? Or what if I'm starting from Dallas, Texas? Or what if I'm starting from Columbus, Ohio? LA. Make up your destination. But knowing where you're starting from, if you have some goals, you should have some goals. If you listen to this podcast, I know you have goals. I'm a big fan of goals. But you got to know where you're at. Right? I mean, that's the part of accountability and awareness, is knowing where you're at, knowing how long it takes to get somewhere. I want to retire. Well, guess what? So do you. Okay, great. What's it going to take to retire? It's going to take you and I a different amount of money, a different amount of time in order to get to that place that ultimately we're going to have that financial freedom, is when our investments are making more that covers our lifestyle. And I think once you understand where you're at, you set goals that you can track, create milestones. I'm big on, if you're setting a goal, you better have milestones you can track. If you can't track it, it's not a goal, it's a wish. I'll say it again. If you have a goal that you cannot track, that's not a goal. That's a wish. All right. Um, and more is not a goal, right? I mean, how many times have you said, what do you want to do this year? What's your goal? More what? More money. Okay, great. What are you going to have to do what's the trade off? What are you going to have to do? Wishing is just a terrible business plan. So, another quote, I really like this one. I really like this one. If you struggle with money, it's probably because you're struggling with how you feel about the money, right? I mean, that's really the struggle. Um, there's wisdom that says the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money is evil. It absolutely does not say money is evil. It says the love of it. And this is a fantastic quote by Jonathan Swift. A wise person should have money in their head, but not in their heart. I'll read that again. A wise person should have money in their head and not in their heart. Jonathan Swift, smart man. That's really what it's about. It's about understanding it. It's about understanding from a mind game. How are you going to play the game of money, and have it in your head, understanding it, be knowledgeable, be wise, but not in your heart. I'm not chasing it. I don't love it. I love what it can do. I love the benefits of it. The third thing you talked about was separate business and personal finances. I love this one. My mentor, Brian Buffini, talked about this at a very early age when I got started in real estate. I was probably 3-4 years in. I set up an LLC and I started paying myself a salary. It was not much. It's not what it is today. But what was that, 17 years ago, when I found Brian Buffini, I knew, keep my business and my personal finances separate. Brian talked about this, and you do this to avoid the confusion. Again, act your wage. You don't know what your wage is if everything goes into one account. You don't know how to grow. You don't know where to invest. You don't know you don't know where to splurge. Your fun account, your experience account. We have Lindsay and I have an experience account. There's some money from our profit that goes into there. That's an experience account. I bought new golf clubs this summer from the experience account. I've had my old ones for about 8 years. Technology's changing, and my daughter keeps beating me, so I got to figure out something. But I bought new golf clubs, and the question was pretty simple. I go home, and golf clubs are not cheap, but I go home and I say, "Hey, Linz, I'd like to buy some golf clubs." And she goes, "Okay, where's the money coming from?" I said, "Our experience account." She's like, "Great, have fun." And there's communication around it, but there's no questions to be asked. But when you separate your business and your personal finances, you can have that freedom. Um, he talks about allocating money to different accounts. All right, so this is really important. So Michalowicz recommends setting up separate bank accounts for different purposes. So you've got the profit first, okay, model is you have a profit account, you have an owner's compensation account, which is this where you get your salary, you have a taxes account, and you have an operational expense account or the operating expenses. These are the four accounts that we use. Every time we have a sale, money goes into the revenue account. And on the 10th and the 25th of every month, we make a distribution, a profit distribution. And we follow the book. There's percentages based on where your business is right now. And there's percentages. And on the 10th and the 25th, we make those transfers. And what ends up happening is this method forces us and other business owners to allocate funds for profits and taxes first and avoids the temptation to spend everything that should be going into our operating account. Let me say it again. It it removes the temptation because we're following a system. You may have heard something. There's something called Parkinson's law, and Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Let me give you a great example that all of us, especially you students, have been. It's Monday, you're in class, and the teacher says this paper is due by Friday. When do you do it? Thursday night. You do it Thursday night. Now, if she comes back and says, hey, this is due Wednesday, when do you do it? You do it Tuesday night. Parkinson's law says work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So then Mr. Michalowicz adapts this principle to finances, and he suggests, and we've all heard this if you've done your homework on some money, expenses will rise to meet the amount of money available. Expenses will rise to meet the amount of money available. So why do I have separate bank accounts? Because of Parkinson's law. Whatever's in my account, I'm probably going to spend. I'm a spender. In our relationship, Lindsay's a saver. I'm a spender. I'm very disciplined. And so when I have a system, nobody can stop me. When I have a system, nobody can stop me. I'm very disciplined, but I am a spender. And I like to spend on other people. I like to give. That's not just about me going out and buying new golf clubs and now I'm going to go buy the new shoes that are coming out. Of course, that's fun, but I've got accounts that suggest what I can and can't do. The coolest example I can give you on Parkinson's law, I mean, the whole, homework due on Friday, you do it on Thursday night. That's a great example. But another one, you may have never heard this before. The tube of toothpaste. How many of you squeeze the tube of toothpaste to get every last drop of toothpaste? Like seriously, go home, when you're done with your walk or when you're driving right now and you're going home or you got the AirPods in, you're mowing the yard. When you get in your bathroom, go look at your tube of toothpaste. I guarantee you, most of us will continue to squeeze every last ounce out of that tube of toothpaste. And what happens is we become resourceful. You become resourceful when there's not as much left. And so what I've done at a very early age is following this profit first model. If we don't have it, we're not spending it. If it's not like I pay my taxes. I'm a small business owner. I have to pay taxes. And so the money that's in that tax account, it doesn't get spent on payroll. It doesn't get spent on marketing. It doesn't get spent on entertainment and client events. It's for taxes, and that helps. That helps me, be disciplined, knowing like I don't ever have to worry about being able to pay my taxes again. If you caught that. So this has been very helpful. But you think about Parkinson's law is expenses will rise to meet your income. The work expands to fill time available for its completion. It's a great quote. I think most of us have heard it from somebody else, but we're going to give Will Rogers credit for this. Too many people spend money they don't have to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't like. Too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't like. If you've never heard that before, we're giving Will Rogers a quote for the origin there. Number 4, start conversations about money. All right. So where are we at? We're at number 4. We've talked about master the 4 financial pillars. We've talked about financial accountability and awareness. We've talked about separate business and personal finances. Start conversations about money. Oh my goodness. Can you believe this? We're talking about money today. Breaking the taboo around talking about money is so important. It's critical. Whether you're discussing your finances with your teams, your mentors, your peers. You know what I found is I've found that people are most comfortable talking about finances to people that are below them, below their levels, maybe behind, but we're not comfortable talking to people that are ahead. Maybe that's just me. But what I've kind of done is I've said, you know what? Money's a scorecard. How are you doing with money? The scorecard of money, your bank account is a scorecard. Are you better at offense? Are you better with defense? You're probably good at one of those. Who do you need in your life, right? If relationships win, if we believe relationships win, who do you need in your life that you can talk to about money? Um, for me, it wasn't until I found a group of business owners, actually realtors throughout the country, and we started to dive into the book Profit First. And every Wednesday morning, shout out to my guys, every Wednesday morning we'd get on a Zoom. All right. And we became comfortable talking about money. We became comfortable talking about, hey, I haven't made a sale in a while and I've got payroll coming up. What suggestions do you have? These guys helped me, not just get comfortable talking about money, but they gave me this comfort level that everybody is going through something with money, and let's just try to help each other out. Iron sharpens iron. Um, and then my knowledge around money grew, and I started talking about it more. I want to talk about money with my team. It's something I understand now in my profession in real estate. Um, you just ask yourself, how do you feel about money? Do you need some help? Do you need a mentor? But starting conversations about money, I believe most people didn't talk about money growing up. Luckily Brian did. Brian has a finance major, understands money. Um, got hit by the recession, and lost a lot, lost everything, was in debt, and then built it up to be a multimillionaire. And you can too. Like that's the that's the great part about using other people's experience and wisdom is people go through stuff, and if they're willing to teach, listen. Two quotes here. Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, one of my all-time favorites. Never saw him live, but absolutely love every video by him. He says, "A formal education will make you a living. A formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune." Let that sink in. And then good old Dave Ramsey says, "You must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you." Ooh, that's deep. And then number 5, play the long game. Financial success does not happen overnight. I can attest to this. I think there's a famous saying that says we overestimate what we can get done in a year, and we underestimate what we can get done in a decade. I now have 2 decades of data. I have 2 decades of data, and I look at that sometimes just to remain grateful. Because when I don't look at that, I'm not where I want to be. When I don't look at that, I'm comparing myself to what I don't have. But when you have data, when you have decades of data, it's easy to remain grateful. You play the long game. I cannot believe where we're at right now. I'm content, never satisfied. But I think focusing on celebrating the small wins along the way, though, is what continues to maintain discipline. I'm not somebody that celebrates. I'll be the first to tell you that. But I think celebrating those small wins with your discipline and financial management go a long way. All right. I hope these points have helped you. I hope understanding financial management for small business. It's a big topic. It's so hard. I'm right there with you. It is so hard. We're not out of the woods. We're going to have more bad years. Like that's just. I'm not speaking that into existence. I'm telling you that over time there's ups and downs. Our next bad season of our finances may not look like the last bad season of finances, and so you just have to grow constantly through it. I think the thing that you have to talk about with money too is consistent cash flow. The focus is cash flow. That's revenue. It's how does it flow? And the profit first system encourages steady, sustainable cash flow management rather than relying on erratic, large payouts. I've got some buddies that are attorneys and they win a big case, and then because they spent so much time on that case, they don't have any other cases coming in, and so that big payday now has to last several months. Have you ever had that as a small business owner? If you're a landscaper, you get these big payouts, like you're in the fall and you're doing all the cleanup and the mulch and everything, and now all of a sudden you get to winter and it's not snowing. You don't have any snow removal. Man, you got to make that sucker last. So cash flow is really important. But by taking smaller but consistent profits, I think you ensure the health of your business over time, and you don't suffer the cash flow shortages. If you're going to go on vacation, if you're going to buy a new car, where's that money coming from? And you coming from the operating expense? Maybe, but just know where it's coming from. If you're in a commission business and have irregular income, I know you've experienced the chickens and feathers approach. You ever heard of this? The chickens and feathers approach? My grandfather taught me this. He said, when I got into real estate, he said, "Brad, real estate is the chickens and the feathers." And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? He says, because some month you get the chickens And the next month, all you get's the feathers. I want to encourage you that if you're feeling like it's a bunch of feathers right now, put your head down, go to work, go build relationships, go connect with a bunch of people. You're gonna have all the chickens you can handle coming up. And I think protecting your financial future is really about loving the work that you do. You love the work you do by taking regular profits out of the business to fund your lifestyles, your goals, your bucket lists, things you really want to do. I'm almost at my 500th Peloton ride, and I want to do my 500th live in studio in New York with my family around Christmas time. Think about that. That's coming from the profit account. So guess what? I have to plan the trip. What am I going to do? I'm going to go connect with a whole bunch more people because I want to experience that with my daughter, with my wife. I want to go have some fun. And that's from the profits, and you should enjoy that because all work and no play, what do they say? Makes Jack a dull boy. I just think the profit does not need to get pushed back into the business. You know, you've heard people say, and maybe you've even said it before, I'm reinvesting my profits back into the business. Well, I really believe that's where burnout occurs. If you're not enjoying the fruits of your labor, I think that's the challenge. I'm reinvesting my profits back into the business. No, I'm reinvesting my revenue back into the business, but the profits, I'm paying myself first. My family and I are going to have experiences. If you're a small business owner, you should enjoy the work that you do. It's okay. Last quote says, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few ones. Think about that. Wealth consists not in having great possessions. You know, when you're starting your business and you're like, I'm buying the Lambo, I'm getting the jet, or I'm going on vacation, right? If you're doing your business just for the possessions, if you're doing your business, if you are growing your business just for possessions and material gain, I some of them fine. I just told you about golf clubs. I told you about the experiences of going to New York. I mean, all these things are great, but I think what's key is to have a few ones, not many ones, a few ones. And when you have a few ones instead of many, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few ones. It's all about contentment. That's all about money. Hope you learned something today. I know I have. I've been learning just as much as you have, if not more, in preparing this content. If this has been helpful, I just ask you screenshot this episode, share it on social media, tag me. That lets me know that you want more of this. Leave a review. I would really the way we grow this podcast, the way we grow the mission of Student of the Game is by leaving a review. That's what the podcast people say. But if you could do me a favor and screenshot this and tag me on socials, that knows you like this episode about money, and I'll produce more of this. All the things that I'm going through in my business, I want to share with you guys. I hope if you're listening right now, you get ahead in life faster than what I've been able to, and you're taking lessons and you're learning from the people we have on this show. Thanks to Brian Lessinger, the Complete Money Playbook. Go to YouTube, subscribe, and when you find a great video, send that to your kids, send that to a team member, send it to a family member. Brian's passionate about just bringing financial literacy to the marketplace. So congratulations, Brian. Keep up the good work. Thanks for listening to this show. Have a great day.